The OnePlus 10 Pro 5G picks up exactly where the 9 Pro left off and incorporates many changes which on paper should make it a better flagship. Now, the most notable ones to me include the better design, improved selfie camera, and a larger battery with quicker charging. It's time to find out if this phone is actually as good as it looks. Hi, I'm Royden, you're watching Gadgets 360 and this is my review of the OnePlus 10 Pro 5G. Thankfully, the price hasn't gone up by a whole lot compared to the 9 Pro's launch price. The OnePlus 10 Pro 5G starts at 66,999 in India and goes up to 71,999 for the 12GB variant, which is what we'll be testing today. The OnePlus 10 Pro 5G is available in volcanic black and emerald forest colors. Now, I have the latter and I think this color looks really good. I also like the new design of the camera module, which I think is distinctive. OnePlus has used Corning Gorilla Glass 5 on the back, Gorilla Glass Victus for the display, and a ceramic coating over the camera module, which should keep this phone scratch-free even if you don't plan on using a case. The rest of the design is similar to what we've already seen with the 9 Pro. You get a large curved edge display on the front and a slim aluminum frame. All the ports are on the bottom. The 10 Pro is slightly slimmer than its predecessor, but it has gained some weight. The 6.7-inch AMOLED display has flagship specs just like on the 9 Pro, but with two notable upgrades. OnePlus has used a newer LTPO type AMOLED panel, which now has the ability to vary the refresh rate all the way down to 1 Hz in order to conserve more battery power. Secondly, the in-display fingerprint sensor is now a lot closer to the center of the display, so it's more comfortable to reach. Just like every other Android flagship in 2022, the OnePlus 10 Pro 5G uses the Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 SoC. Now, this phone also supports a total of 9 5G bands in India, which I think is a big improvement over the 2 bands with the 9 Pro. The battery capacity on the OnePlus 10 Pro 5G has also increased to 5000 mAh. It's a similar dual cell battery as what the 9 series had, but it supports up to 80-watt SuperVOOC wired charging, and this charger is bundled with the phone. The 10 Pro also supports wireless charging up to 50 watts, similar to the 9 Pro. In terms of weatherproofing, we are told that the OnePlus 10 Pro 5G does not have an IP68 rating, except for the variant sold via US telecom carrier Verizon. Now, despite the lack of an official certification, the version sold in India is still set to have all the necessary seals and protection from dust and water. Now, I did test this out a bit by dunking my 10 Pro unit underwater for a few minutes, and it continued to work just fine. The OnePlus 10 Pro 5G runs OxygenOS 12.1, which is based on Android 12. Now, you'll find traces of Oppo's ColorOS in the camera app and the settings menu, but OnePlus has kept the look and feel of its OS consistent with what OnePlus fans know and appreciate. Now, some of the new features in this version of OxygenOS include a redesigned shelf screen and a new universal search box called OnePlus Scout, which is similar to Apple's Spotlight search. You also get to choose from multiple dark mode levels, which is nice. Now, OnePlus does promise 3 years of Android OS updates and 4 years of security updates for the 10 Pro 5G. In terms of usability, the OnePlus 10 Pro 5G is a large and slightly heavy phone which can take some getting used to. The finish of the phone's body can be slippery, which is where the bundle case comes in handy. The in-display fingerprint sensor is responsive and it never really failed to unlock the phone. The display on the 10 Pro 5G delivered excellent colors and content looked sharp. HDR videos also looked very good, and the stereo speakers helped complete the viewing experience nicely. The OnePlus 10 Pro 5G also performed very well in benchmarks as you'd expect. Performance never really skipped a beat on this phone when doing menial tasks and using basic apps, but playing high-end games pushes this SoC to its limits. The OnePlus 10 Pro 5G ran fairly hot with taxing titles such as Fortnite, but it cooled down just as quickly once I exited the game or switched to something less demanding. Now, despite this, in-game performance was steady and gameplay didn't really suffer. However, the one instance where the heat from the phone did hamper usability was when shooting videos in very warm to hot conditions. I encountered multiple overheating warnings when recording 4K video clips outdoors during the day, but didn't really have the same issues in cooler environments indoors or at night. Now, thanks to the large battery, the OnePlus 10 Pro 5G was able to deliver at least one full day's worth of use, even with heavy usage. With screen resolution set to auto, I managed to get nearly 19 hours of runtime in our HD video loop test, which is very good. Charging the phone is very quick too, as you can get to nearly 100% from empty in just half an hour. The phone also supports other fast charging standards in case you forget your 80-watt charger at home. 50-watt wireless charging worked well too, but you'll have to buy this charger separately. The OnePlus and Hasselblad partnership continues, and all three cameras use the Hasselblad camera for mobile color science for processing captured images. In terms of hardware, the primary and telephoto cameras haven't really changed much compared to what the 9 Pro had, but we do have different ultra-wide and selfie cameras, so let's take a look at those first. Now, the ultra-wide camera on the 10 Pro 5G still has a 50 megapixel resolution, but it's now based on the Samsung ISO JN1 sensor. Now, this is a smaller sensor with smaller pixels compared to the excellent Sony IMX766 sensor that we had in the 9 Pro, and on paper, this is definitely a downgrade. Now, to add insult to injury, OnePlus has also taken away this camera's autofocus capability, which means the 10 Pro 5G doesn't have a macro mode like the 9 Pro. Now, the one good thing to come out of this change is that the ultra-wide camera now supports a much wider 150-degree field of view, which does lead to some very interesting looking shots. Here are some samples taken with the 150-degree shooting mode. Now, in terms of quality from this new ultra-wide camera, images shot in daylight looked very good, HDR was handled well, and low-light shots were relatively free of noise. However, when compared to the same scenes shot with the 9 Pro's ultra-wide camera, the lack of detail and sharpness is very evident if you look close enough. OnePlus has finally upgraded the selfie camera on its flagship to a Sony IMX615 sensor, giving it a higher 32 megapixel resolution. Selfies shot in daylight were sharp and skin tones looked natural once all the beauty filters were turned off. Low-light selfies were also decent, and night mode is available too. The specs of the main and telephoto cameras haven't changed much from the 9 Pro, and you can see their details on the screen now. The main camera captured excellent details and accurate colors in daylight shots. HDR worked very well, autofocus was quick and responsive, and nearly every photo I took during this review period looked superb. Low-light photos packed in very good details too, and colors were faithfully represented. Photos shot with the telephoto camera were also sharp and highly detailed at the native 3.3x optical zoom level. Images still looked good till about 10x zoom, but beyond that, details began to deteriorate pretty quickly. Photos were still usable even at higher zoom levels, but smaller objects were kind of hard to identify properly. 8K videos recorded with the OnePlus 10 Pro 5G looked sharp with good colors and were even stabilized. Videos shot in low light at 8K also looked good, but the electronic stabilization caused some mild jitter. 4K videos on the other hand shot during the day looked pretty impressive with very good colors and stabilization. In low light, 4K performance was still pretty good. The OnePlus 10 Pro 5G brings some much needed upgrades over the 9 Pro, and with just a moderate bump in pricing, I think it's not a bad deal. Even the top-end variant of the 10 Pro 5G is less expensive than the current Samsung Galaxy S22 or even the iPhone 13, making it very good value. However, its biggest competition at the moment is the iQOO 9 Pro, which offers similar features at around the same price. Now, compared to the OnePlus 9 Pro, the 10 Pro 5G has a bigger battery, quicker charging, a slightly more power-efficient AMOLED display, a more powerful SoC with plenty more 5G bands, a better selfie camera, and of course a nicer design. Now keep in mind that the OnePlus 10 Pro 5G does have a tendency to overheat when you're recording videos, which is an issue I also faced with the 9 Pro at launch. Now this was seemingly resolved with software updates, so there is still hope for the 10 Pro. I am also a little bummed out about the ultra-wide camera in the 10 Pro 5G, as you cannot use it to shoot macros, and the images it captures aren't as detailed as the 9 Pro managed. But other than these little things, I think the 10 Pro 5G is yet another solid flagship from OnePlus that delivers very good performance and features for the price. So that's been it for my review. Let me know what you think about this phone in the comments below. And as always, for all things tech, log on to gadgets360.com.